This is Flick,
This is Rudy.
and this week it's Capricornucopia. We are discussing Capricorns, people who have birth dates from uh, December 21st to January 21st, or at least that's the range that Wikipedia gave me, and just kind of discussing, some of our favorite artists who happen to have birthdays in that range.
Flick, I'm not going to lie. I use this an opportunity or really just an excuse to talk about some stuff that I want to talk about. And
Like Kenny Loggins.
like Kenny Loggins, like Rod Stewart, there's some pain. You talked about Pat Benatar. I think what we're getting at here is that episode 66, Love is a Battlefield. I think that's the main takeaway today for our Capricornucopia. It is episode 66. Why don't we cue the time worm and let's get it on.
Yeah, we are young. We are strong.
No one can tell us we're wrong.
That's the time worm from with clairvoyance from Richard Shirk, bringing us in for episode 66 of LOTD Pod. A little bit of a rebranding. We're still basically, our name is still basically the same, but for the purpose of our handle, we're going with LOTD Pod. And with that in mind, if you want to reach us by email, you can reach us at lotdpod@gmail.com or find us on Instagram or Twitter. And again, this is episode 66 of LOTD Pod. We're getting our kicks, and we are doing Capricorn birthdays. A bunch of, I don't know, it just seemed like a fun thing to do for our last show of the year. Kind of celebrate the birthdays of some of the Capricorns. Not all of them, but some of the Capricorns celebrating birthdays.
So, Flick, you usually win hands down on naming the playlists, and I have to congratulate you this week. Tell everybody what the name of your playlist is.
My playlist is Flick's Capricornucopia.
Wow, and you said it too. That's pretty great. Are you going to give me any props for having mine be called all caps?
I did like that, yeah.
All right, great. So yeah, we're doing all Capricorns. Is it Capricorns or Capricorn? Is the plural of Capricorn Capricorn? I don't know the answer to this.
I don't know.
If only there was a device where you could look these things up.
You mean in the way that? Well, okay. So do you mean in the way that the plural of the food is still corn?
Yeah, I mean the thing that grows on your foot, the plural of that is corns.
Right, exactly.
And multiple species of corn theoretically could be corns, right? Or no?
I would say it's still corns, because the term Capricorn doesn't really have anything to do with the food.
That's true.
Anything to do with what grows on your foot. But the symbol of the Capricorn is the horned goat. And the plural of goats is goats, so
yeah, you're not selling me on that, but you're a Capricorn, right? That's what we're doing. Yeah. At least I didn't say what's your sign, baby. I mean, come on. Are you a follower of the astrological charts? Let's look. Come on.
I'm not. But by the way, you might not be aware, but there is I guess fairly obscure Alex Chilton song that is called "What's Your Sign." Or What's Your Sign Girl? I don't remember if that's the title, but that's how the chorus goes.
All right. Well, I have some content around this. So I'm going to ask that we punt the discussion of the zodiac until a little later.
So it's definitely not something I follow or pay attention to. But it is a way to group these birthdays, and there are a lot of birthdays around this time that of musicians that I have a lot of fondness for. So it just seemed like a good theme.
It is. It gives us a chance to talk about artists we have no reason to talk about otherwise, and that's really my sweet spot. So I'm very, very excited. But since you're the birthday boy, I would never go first. You must go first.
All right. Well, my first. So the range here is I think December 21st to January 21st. We're not. I'm not. My list anyway doesn't go too late into January. It goes the latest birthday I have on here is January 12th. Um, I'm only going to highlight certain days, so I'm going to mention multiple musicians on the same day usually. And on the 21st, I'm just going to do a quick mention. So I'm going to start by doubling up actually, because the first day I had planned to talk about was the 22nd, but I do want to throw in a couple for December 21st. Carla Thomas from the Stax label in the 60s, and Carl Wilson, one of the Beach Boys, one of the Wilson brothers, of course. And I would say my favorite Beach Boy who's not named Brian, and one of my favorite vocals of all time he did on God Only Knows, and so that is included on my list. The first birth date I had planned on talking about is December 22nd, which is Rick Nielsen. Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, one of my all-time favorites. Very cool that I saw them. I've seen them a few times. I saw them in at what the name's escaping me now.
Crockford, Illinois? Are you talking about where they're from?
No,
From Rockford?
Oh, okay. So where Buddy Holly,
Clear Lake.
Clear Lake, but what's
the ballroom? The something ballroom.
Yeah.
Oh wow, our brains are. You know what? We got to give ourselves a break. It is towards the end of the year, and I haven't gone up there, but this actually, yeah, that's a little worse for you because you've been, right?
Yeah. So the surf ballroom is what
the surf ballroom. That's correct.
So I went to see them at the surf ballroom, and was lucky enough to catch one of Rick Nielsen's picks when he throws them out. And not only that, but I was smart enough to bring a couple of my albums to the show as well, and he was signing for a long line of people after the show. So I have like actually I think 4 Cheap Trick albums signed by him that night. So so that was really cool.
Did you get anything signed by Bun E. Carlos?
Well, he wasn't the drummer anymore at that point.
Oh, well, my folks live in mighty Rockford, so I spent some quality time there. The old clock tower is gone, and they're going to put a Hard Rock casino there. And if I'm not mistaken, Rick Nielsen was involved in either helping them get the land or helping them get the casino approval. So he really is Rockford's #1 son. I'm just telling it like I see it.
Yeah, and the first time I ever saw Cheap Trick, I saw them in Rockford too. Saw them on Labor Day weekend in Rockford, quite a while ago, and also made a trip up to Rockford one time to see a museum exhibit at the Burpee Museum in Rockford called Rick's Picks, which showcased all of his memorabilia, his guitars, and just all the stuff. Like it was literally as big as a giant warehouse, and it was full of his stuff. Because I don't know where he keeps it when he just keeps it at home, but he has a ton of things. Like I don't think he's ever thrown away anything.
Yeah, I mean, the Rockford Chamber of Commerce has their work cut out for them. I feel like we did the best we could. The Pick Museum. Did you? So your picks, you're picking for the 22nd, and you didn't pick the Gibb twins.
So is that their day?
Yes. Robin and Maurice, Mo to his friends, both born on December 22nd. I mean, musically speaking, I can't think of a more important event than 2/3 of the Bee Gees landing on planet Earth at the same day. It gives me another opportunity to discuss how wonderful the song "Staying Alive" is. Have I mentioned that before?
Well, it is with that in mind that I did make a point to include as a bonus track on my list, "To Love Somebody," and it was either going to be that or "How Can You Mend a Broken Heart," but there are probably at least 5 songs that I like a lot more than "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees.
I just can't. I can't wrap my mind around that. Um, have you listened to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack recently?
No.
You have to. It's mandatory. It should be sold. You shouldn't be able to get a college degree in this nation without writing a paper on it. And I mean, it's got the Bee Gees all over it. Just that album alone, its significance to our culture, let alone all the other fantastic moments in their career.
Well,
What?
in a way, I did because Saturday Night Fever was part of the curriculum on one of the film classes I took in college, so there was that.
Well, then there's hope. There's hope. What? So wait, are you telling if I give you 3 Beach Boys songs, are any of your top 3 going to be from the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack?
You said Beach Boys, but
I'm
you mean
sorry, Bee Gees. Bee Gees. Like, I'm old. Keep going. Is it Bee Gees? Give me your top 3.
top 3?
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned 2 of them.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's third? I don't know. I can put "I Started a Joke" ahead. "Lonely Days,
Wow.
Lonely Nights." Probably "Lonely Days, Lonely Nights" would be the next one, and "Run to Me" is also great.
I'm my jaw's on the floor. All right. Well, look. It's there's an "I'm Gonna Make You Love Me" opportunity coming up for me here to slot the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack back
Well,
into your life.
yeah, it's not like I'm not familiar with it already, though.
But I'm gonna make you love it. See the difference?
Yeah, I don't, I don't. That's an uphill climb.
All right, you're up.
All I can say is it's very of its time. It is kind of hard to bring it into the present for me.
Wow, I don't I don't know what I'm hearing right now. Go ahead, just keep going.
Okay, all right. I'm moving up to the 25th. A lot of birthdays that I could just mention quick. I know one that you probably don't want me to mention. So,
Oh, go go. You're the birthday boy.
well,
It literally is your birthday.
I'll just go with the ones that are included on my list. So I included Shane McGowan. He was December 25th birthday. Put the Pogues version of "Dirty Old Town." And Noel Redding, bass player for the Jimi Hendrix Experience. He was born in 1945 on December 25th. I included from Axis Bold as Love the song that he wrote and sang vocals on, "She's So Fine." And yeah, that's what I have for the 25th.
I have to go back to the 23rd for my next one. On the 23rd is the birthday of Adrian Belew, who is I don't of all the like sidemen, famous sidemen from the 70s, I think Adrian Belew is probably among the best known. He played with lots and lots of groups that matter. He also had some solo. Some of his solo stuff is like in my wheelhouse. He's definitely a weirdo. So I dig some of his solo stuff, but he does some pretty straightforward on the floor stuff too. I always like the song "Trust" by his band The Bears. He was in Talking Heads. He was great in the Talking Heads. One of my favorite tenures he had was with Frank Zappa's band in like the late 70s, early 80s. Again, I was like 9 years old, I think, when this album came out, so it wasn't like I went out and bought it. But the Chic Your Booty album, I was 9 years old when it came out, but the minute I became 13, it became, my favorite album of all time. One of the songs I used to fast forward through was the song Flakes. Only later on did I start listening to Flakes. Flakes has one of the best make fun of Bob Dylan things I've ever heard, and it's done by Adrian Belew. And you couldn't possibly skewer Bob Dylan this well if you weren't a fan. The level of detail in making a parody of Bob Dylan. Basically, the song Flakes is about people in California in the 70s. Like the kinds of people who literally were like saying, "Hey baby, what's your sign?" Like, well, I never, I'm a Capricorn. I don't date Geminis. Like California in the 70s in particular was famous in the 60s, I guess too, but 70s was really flaky. So Frank Zappa writes a song called Flakes. It's about all the people in California who are just, they're daydreaming when they're supposed to be working. They're totally incompetent, but spiritual, just the goofballs of California. And there's a breakdown in which Bob Dylan writes a song of frustration. Like it's basically a little Bob Dylan folk song of frustration about how his mechanic didn't fix his car, and that if he refuses to pay, they keep calling and trying to get collections on him. So if you love Dylan, if you have to find, and you don't know, and you don't like Frank Zappa is going to be like shock therapy for your ears. Nothing sounds like that. And the Dylan thing's a couple of minutes in. Try to like some Frank Zappa, but if you don't, hang in there. It's I put it on there from Chic Your Booty, Frank Zappa's Flakes, celebrating the birthday of on the 23rd of Adrian Blue.
Okay, but not celebrating Frank Zappa's birthday?
No, I could drop some straight Adrian Blue stuff in there, but I'm not the biggest Adrian Blue fan in the world. But
Well,
I think he was also in Tom Tom Club. I think he was like an actual member of the Tom Tom Club on the first one.
well, okay, so I gotta point out a technicality there. Adrian Blue not in Talking Heads. He toured with them as a touring musician, but
sure, but he's in Stop Making Sense, if I'm not mistaken.
right, but he never recorded with them, and it wasn't. Well, he might have recorded with them, but not really a member of the band per se.
No, but he was definitely a member of the Tom Tom Club on the first record.
But yeah, Frank Zappa also born on December 21st, so he would be.
He would count.
So yeah, you are, I guess, killing two birds with one stone.
Doubling up. Yeah, I'll throw I think Big Electric Cat by Adrian Blue is awesome. I'll throw that on too, just for fun.
All right, and yeah, so yeah, I guess probably a member of the Tom Tom Club in that he played on Tom Tom Club songs that they did in Stop Making Sense, but probably
true.
Not a full-fledged member in any way.
I think I have the first Tom Tom Club record, and his name is on it on the back cover as I'll look. I'll double check. If only there was a device.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he can claim to be a member of the Tom Tom Club, but not Talking Heads.
There you go.
Yeah, but toured with them. Okay. So the December 26th. A lot here. One that we talked about a lot last week. Phil Spector happens to have been born on December 26th. We talked about him a lot last week, and other than the fact that it is it is definitely my favorite Christmas album of all time. A Christmas Gift to You from Phil Spector. I'm going to limit the tributes to that just because I think you should be a better person to get this much of a tribute. So I'm going to leave him out of the tributes. I'm going to leave him out of, but there's plenty of music. Of course, there's a lot of great recordings. He's a Rebel, Be My Baby. The list goes on and on. But I'm just going to leave the tributes aside other than that. Jay Farrar from Uncle Tupelo, and then later from Sunvolt. My favorite Jay Farrar song is Still Be Around. It's a very close call though. Chickamauga from Anodyne and Still Be Around from Still Feel Gone. My two favorite Jay Farrar songs. I went with Still Be Around for my list. Lars Ulrich, also December 26th birthday. James Mercer from the Shins. I included Kissing the Lipless from Shoots Too Narrow. Michael Cronin, Michael Cronin of Michael Cronin, December 26th birthday. My favorite Michael Cronin song, I love many of them, almost all of them. But my favorite one is still the first one I ever heard, and that's Is It All Right from the debut album from Trouble in Mind Records.
That is his best so far. He makes a lot of good stuff. but that is his best so far.
Yeah, I mean, I thoroughly love his catalog, but I do have to say that my favorite song of his is still the first one. Yeah, so a lot going on December 26th, and a lot on my list from that.
All right, I'm almost caught up to you. I do have a couple from the 25th that must be mentioned. First, Annie Lennox. Eurythmics is probably, I think the first album I bought with my own money was the Go-Go's Beauty and the Beat. I think the second one was Sweet Dreams by Eurythmics. I'd say the first two Eurythmics albums are almost flawless. I know people don't like Touch as much, but Touch is in just an absolutely stellar album. It's way, 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 way underappreciated for just to have that many singles off of it. And none of the singles hit as hard as Sweet Dreams are made of these, but the singles are really good. The album's really good. I mean, Annie Lennox is a once in a generation talent, and if you look at the full range of the stuff she's done, it's over just the career of the Eurythmics, let alone her own solo stuff. It's astounding just what an incredible artist she is. And again, I don't mean that in the I just like you can't take your eyes off her no matter what guys there is. You know what I mean? Like she's just she's phenomenal. And even though I love those first two records, I've been getting into a thorn in my side for some reason. Missionary Man, like the stuff where they actually became like a rock band for a while. Those records are way better than I remember them. I don't know why I slept on them so much, but I'm going to go with Thorn in my side. And then Cab Calloway. If I was to like, I'm not. I don't think this is a hot take. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but not by much. Cab Calloway's like one of the most important people of the 20th century in America. Like he sang about like hard partying, like before anybody, I think. I mean, it's like there were always like dirty records and there was always sort of risque music, but like he really made a popular art form out of stuff that everybody was doing. You know, he was just he like he's associated with a certain era and a certain sound, and I think everybody knows Cab Calloway primarily from the Blues Brothers, I'm sad to say. Minnie the Moocher is great, but Minnie the Moocher is like in a series of songs about these characters. And I love Minnie the Moocher, but I'm putting another song from the Minnie saga on, Kicking the Gong Around. The performance, too, there's a couple different performances by him and his band of doing Kicking the Gong Around. But this one is just, it's pistol hot. I'm serious. Like, this stuff's almost 100 years old now. And Cab Calloway was a wild man before we really had wild men. And I just, like, the concept of being cool may predate him, but I think he's the one who basically created the modern conceptual of what it is to be cool. And to have records that are 100 years old that are genuinely just still very cool is it's transcendent. I don't know why we don't talk about Cab Calloway and how important he was. I mean, maybe he's not up to the stature of like a Louis Armstrong. He's not that far off. He really isn't. I would put him up there. I think he's a peer of the greats of jazz. I mean, he was a great singer. He was a great entertainer. He was a great band leader. So if you haven't spent any time trying to listen to Cab Calloway, just do it and realize this stuff is almost 100 years old. And I think swag is the word that is closest to the modern lexicon to what he had. He still has swag like 90 years later. It's swag in like the modern sense. I don't know. I think he's an alpha, and I think he needs more love. So there you go. I put in Kicking the Gong Around. It's really good. Give it a try from Cab Calloway.
Okay, well, speaking of alphas, I one of the reasons why I wanted to do this list is because I feel like this is a stretch of dates where a lot of my absolute favorites are in here, and I've covered a couple. Rick Nielsen to me is just up there at the top. Jay Farrar, Uncle Tupelo is one of the tops. Another one here, Alex Chilton, born December 28th in 1950. Of course, he was, I think, 16 when he was Singing on the Letter with the Box Tops. One Big Star is one of my absolute top favorite bands, and the song that I went with is "What's Going On" from Radio City. Alex Chilton, another one who I there isn't really much that he did, at least up to the 80s, that there isn't much there that I don't absolutely love. Then it gets a little bit spottier after the 80s, but still tons of my favorite stuff after that too. It's just it's a little fewer and farther between, but definitely one of my
agree with you. I agree with you on stuff, but some of the archival stuff that I hadn't heard before, like the R.E.M sessions that came out a couple of years ago, that's spectacular. I hadn't heard all of that stuff. I don't. It was still the 70s. Okay, and then what about like Box Bottom? And do you like that? Or the one with Alan Vega?
That's still the 70s.
It is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're right. Not that I thought you weren't, but all right. I'm gonna try to find an 80s. No Sex. You don't care for that? Dr. Demento.
Yeah, it is a little bit too novelty for me, but I guess you can look at that both ways. It's kind of done in a novelty way, but then kind of has a point to it also, because it is in the time of AIDS, so there is kind of an important message there. It's just sort of done in a novelty way. No, there's plenty that I really love after 1980. Like, last week we talked about, I talked about Cliches. I like that album a lot. That was in the 90s. I really like Paradise. I like that song a lot. I don't know. It's just, there's plenty of stuff I really like. It's just his hit rate was not as good as it was prior to 1980, I would say.
All right, well, we got to keep a lid on the Alex Chilton stuff, because I feel an Alex Chilton show coming on soon, or a Big Star show coming on soon. I think we need to do a full-on episode soon. All right, I'm going to jump ahead. What date were you up to?
I'm up to the 28th.
All right, I'm going ahead of you. I'm going to the 31st, but I don't think we overlap on anything I've got from the 31st, which is sad. First up, underappreciated artist, and I remember her in her sort of commercial peak. Casablanca Records were awesome. That's a record company. I know they're very store their drug use, but they were over the top. They had Parliament on that label. They had Kiss on that label. The Village People, just completely from outer space. Just like the Village People. People sort of smirk when they think people, but the Village People sold millions and millions of records. I think of all the bands on Casablanca Records, I don't think anybody was more talented, certainly not by much more, if they were, than Donna Summer. I think Donna Summer's Summer didn't write a lot of her own songs, if I'm not mistaken. And so to some extent, she was sort of she was limited by what material her producers gave her. Sometimes it was like the best stuff in the world, and sometimes it wasn't. I would say the song "Bad Girls," while it was a big hit, is really cringy, and MacArthur Park is a little over the top for my taste, but so is the original of that. But when she does her like that double album she had of, I think it's called On the Radio, of her greatest hits, and it had a lot of like dance versions of that stuff. There's really not a more entertaining greatest hits records from the 70s I can think of than Donna Summer's greatest hits. And the big combo is the long version of I Feel Love is mixed right into Our Love from the Bad Girls record. So everybody knows I Feel Love. I Feel Love is one of the greatest songs I think ever recorded. People sleep on some of the other singles, though, so give Our Love a chance. It's a perfect, seamless transition out of I Feel Love, in my humble estimation. And I wish people would dig a little deeper. Even just in her singles, I feel like people just know She Works Hard for the Money, Love to Love You Baby, and I Feel Love. There's just way, way, way more than that. Start with Our Love and see what you think. Another female voice, black female voice that just has always just hit me like a lightning bolt is Odetta. I actually think her version of "Paths of Victory" by Bob Dylan is better than anything I've ever heard Bob do it. I think she pretty much owns that song. And then if you like Johnny Cash, especially the American record stuff, and you love the song "God's Gonna Cut You Down," you gotta hear Odetta's version. That's the one I put up on the playlist. It's a cappella. There's no way that she ever needed a microphone. There's just no way. And then my last from that day, from the 31st, is John Denver, Rocky Mountain High. If I talk about Frank Zappa a lot, I admire Frank Zappa for going into Congress and taking arrows on behalf of all the artists who were too chicken to show up. One of the very few other artists who was willing to risk their career to protect freedom of speech for artists was John Denver. He did give testimony at the PMRC hearings. He got censored for Rocky Mountain High, which if you listen to that song, I can't think of a more innocuous song than that, but he's more than just that. John Denver was a really good songwriter. Some of that stuff's corny. Flick, you like John Denver, right? There's no way to not like John Denver, right? Was he creepy off mic or anything?
I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but John Denver, I would say John Denver is somebody that was, has always been pretty big in my family. So I grew up, hearing a lot of his stuff, and as a kid, like I really did love his album with the Muppets, honestly, and there are things on that I still have a fondness for. As exhibited last week with, like I didn't mention that album, but I have a fondness for Christmas music. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say like I'm a John Denver fan per se, but he has his place because he was somebody that that I heard a lot when I was a kid, and when I was a kid, I also remember that this I shouldn't sidebar too far onto, but I remember I also I was very blonde as a kid, like John Denver too, and I had a shirt that basically made me look like a little John Denver too. So.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think anybody ever went broke selling sunscreen at a John Denver concert. Let's just be honest. That said, thank God I'm a country boy. If you can't drive down some country road somewhere singing that at the top of your lungs, you might be humorless. It's possible. Give that a try, Flick, sometime. Just sometime you're driving down a back road.
Yeah, and definitely love Toots and the Maytals' version of Country Roads, which we did mention a while back.
And Yellow Man does a version of it. Actually, there's like a ton of reggae covers of that. Yellow Man does a great one too.
All right,
you're up, my friend. I'm done with December, so and I'm moving into January.
Okay, a little bonus track there because you mentioned Paths of Victory. So another person that does an excellent version of Paths of Victory, Cat Power, Sean Marshall.
Oh, yeah.
Should also be mentioned, like not on my list because, like I said, I only went up to January 12th. Her birthday is January 21st, so she is a Capricorn. So a little bonus track there. Adding Cat Power to the list. I don't think she was on your list, right?
No, I didn't go that far ahead, but I'd say she's probably my favorite Gen X artist. So I'm her version of Paths of Victory is fantastic, no doubt.
Yeah, and I don't separate it that way. She's just one of my favorite artists, or an artist I like a lot. All right, so moving up to December 29th, there's a few here. Marianne Faithfull Von Elliman, Glenn Phillips, Toad the Wet Sprocket. Toad the Wet Sprocket, totally forgotten about.
Wait,
I think they're all right.
Yvonne Elliman's on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
There you go.
That's very exciting.
But Toad the Wet Sprocket, I don't actually have them on my list, but I thought worth mentioning because
I'm glad you don't.
they were all right though. They weren't bad.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well. All right. I guess we disagree.
They're entitled to a happy birthday. I'm just saying. I don't know.
All right. Well, my featured birthday from the 29th that's on my list is Rick Danko, the bass player of the band. I don't know the band. Well, we talked about them fairly recent, so I won't go into too much. But included, It Makes No Difference from Northern Lights, Southern Cross, which is a song one of the I think best songs to feature Rick Danko.
He sang lead vocals on Wheels on Fire and Long Black Veil, did he not?
Yeah, and Stage Fright.
Oh, Stage Fright's good. Yeah, Stage Fright's good. Ooh, I'm gonna have to listen to the band here soon. All right, I am jumping deep. We're going deep already into January. I think I'm going to the 4th for my first happy birthdays for the Capricorn. So wait, it might even be after that. Although on the of Vanity 6 fame, I'm going ahead to the 6th. I got 2. I got Peter Guns from Lord Tariq and Peter Guns. Deja Vu is one of the greatest hip hop. That's a all-time hip hop banger. I never heard one note from them other than that I'd listened to twice. But Uptown Baby with the Steely Dan sample, that is top shelf. And I've already I'm not like a huge Syd Barrett fan. I wasn't a huge Pink Floyd fan. I don't like the early Pink Floyd stuff as much as I like Roger Waters at the head of Pink Floyd, just being here. I got to Syd Barrett through Robin Hitchcock, and I've really grown to appreciate Syd Barrett, but I still think Gigolo is the best thing he's done by far. It's just an excuse to put Gigolo on a playlist. But if you don't know Gigolo, that's I think it's a perfect way into the Syd Barrett catalog. So no apologies. Those are my birthday boys.
Yeah, and I don't know. I suppose I prefer I'm not a huge Pink Floyd fan either, but some of it I like a lot and probably prefer the Roger Waters stuff. But Gigolo good. Interstellar Overdrive's good. I like some of that early stuff just fine.
Yeah.
All right, moving up to December 30th. You have Davy Jones from the Monkees. And Michael Nesmith, I'm just going to skip ahead and then skip back because Michael Nesmith's birthday is, I seem to have lost it. What did you come across that one? He's also a Capricorn.
I don't have it. I'm using a different list than you two, so.
Okay. All right. So I'm killing two birds with one stone with Daydream Believer for Davy Jones and Michael Nesmith. Bo Diddley. Bo Diddley, I went with I don't know, it's hard not to go with one of the obvious Bo Diddley songs. I don't have like a super obscure Bo Diddley song I'm gonna throw on you, so I went with Who Do You Love? Del Shannon, again, you kind of got to go for the big one, Runaway. John Hartford wrote Gentle on My Mind, which was, later made big by Glenn Campbell, and it's a great song. Also a great cover that was done by Lucinda Williams, which I don't think she ever released on anything, but it's on the end credits to Talladega Nights, and it's great. It should be available somewhere, but I don't know of anywhere where it's available other than the end credits to Talladega Nights. So somebody explain that one to me. Why isn't that out there somewhere?
I don't know.
All right. Okay, so actually Michael Nesmith and Davy Jones both December 30th. Okay, so I don't even have to skip around because they have the same birthday. Robert Quine, who was who played a lot of guitar with Lou Reed. Um, I put the blue mask on because he was on that album and did a great job. Patti Smith is to me like the big one here on December 3rd. Well, you got Bo Diddley, and you have some big ones on December 30th. Um, Patti Smith is one of the big ones on December 30th. From Horses, I went with Gloria because it's just great. You know, it's I probably could have pulled something a bit more obscure than that, but it's undeniably great.
I'd throw the song Cheyenne by Bo Diddley on from the Bo Diddley is a Gunslinger. I'm going to have to throw that on. Bo Diddley is a Gunslinger is also one of the greatest album covers ever by a long, long, long shot. And it's a great album. So if you're not a fan, get that one in you. I only have one next. I'm going to keep it short. We've talked a lot about this person off the air. And sociologically, I'm not ready. Like I feel like there's going to be a college course someday about the career of Kenny Loggins. There probably should be a college course about the career of Kenny Loggins. It's a really weird career. His biggest songs, and I think what most people would think of as his biggest albums, are movie soundtracks. Yeah, Footloose, Top Gun, Caddyshack, Over the Top, which, I mean, wow, just wow.
What did he have a song called "Over the Top" for "Over the Top"? I don't know.
You know what? I've never owned it. I've owned some real stinkers. I've owned some albums that are genuinely nightmarish, but none of them had his name on them. So I don't know the answer to that question. But "Meet Me Halfway" is from that soundtrack from Over the Top. Now he has had a couple of moments that are slightly tolerable if everything's in alignment. Like "Your Mama Don't Dance" from Loggins and Messina, "Out of the Car, Long Hair." That's a great line. I can tolerate that. But I'm looking at an album that's called his greatest, and wow.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Over the Top soundtrack right now, and well, actually,
is it still sealed?
I mean, halfway. Sammy Hagar is on this. Like every single. Sammy Hagar is on just about every soundtrack, I think, that Kenny Loggins is, and maybe more. All of those forgettable '80s soundtracks seem to also feature Sammy Hagar.
Pretty much every minute I have ever, well, almost every minute I've listened to Sammy Hagar has been against my will. And Kenny Loggins, of all the artists that I've listened to for hours and hours and hours, is probably, I'd say, almost exclusively against my will. It's like I'm at some job somewhere. It's like 1987. I was working at the Kmart. They'd put the radio on the speaker overnight, and they might as well just have changed formats to the Kenny Loggins channel. If I hear Footloose, I get hives. All of it. But I picked his duet with Stevie Nicks. Because I'm trying to goad you into making a hot take here. I don't know if it's going to work, but Stevie Nicks' solo material I think is not as good as I think she gave her best stuff to Fleetwood Mac. Is that a hot take?
Well, that's my take. So I don't think. I think the only hot take would be to suggest anything otherwise. It's pretty obvious that. I mean, I think even if you like Stevie Nicks' solo career, which I'm not a big fan of, to suggest that it's in any way as good as her Fleetwood Mac stuff, I think is completely, check your ears if that's the case.
She does make "Whenever I Call You Friend" by Kenny Loggins mildly tolerable, so that's what I included. I would like to know the total number of records he sold. I really would. It's astronomical.
Yeah, I do feel compelled to mention who else is on the Over the Top soundtrack, since that was.
Is Frank Stallone on there? Carla Bonoff?
Frank Stallone is on there. I was going to save that for last because I thought that was like the capper.
It's just an educated guess. I know my way around a nice price bin. Go on.
Yeah, The only thing that is you know, mildly compelling, although I wouldn't really say it's very compelling,
Yeah.
but Robin Zander has a solo song on,
Oh.
and I would be just curious to hear if that's any good, but not that curious really.
There are meetings that took place like in New York in some big office somewhere, CBS Records. There were, estimates of how many units of the over-the-top soundtrack do we think we can ship this month? Like people who, paid their rent and their entire life was financed by the marketing of the over-the-top soundtrack. The world is
It looks
really. Ugh.
it looks like Giorgio Moroder must have done the score because he has a track on here. And Asia is on here.
See, I like Giorgio Moroder, so now I got to eat it because I mentioned him. That he wrote "I Feel Love for Donna Summer."
Yeah, there you go. It all ties together. And you know what else ties together kind of? Just because I think of these soundtracks and think of Mike Reno, and I don't know what his birthday is, but he is a Capricorn. He's in here somewhere. I don't know what his birthday actually is. But Mike Reno of Loverboy, also a Capricorn.
Turn Me Loose is a banger. If you don't like
Yeah,
Turn Me Loose, you don't like rock music.
I agree. I agree. On my Canadian rock compilation, I do feature that one. That's the one Loverboy song that I don't feel bad about featuring. Okay, December 31st, you've mentioned some birthdays
I
already. You've
did.
mentioned Odetta, John Denver, Donna Summer. Um, I have some more that you did not get to. And speaking of Canadian rock, Burton Cummings of the Guess Who, one of those. I put the song "Broken" on there because all of their other big American Woman. Everybody knows American Woman. Everybody knows No Time. Everybody knows Hand Me Down. All that stuff. But the song "Broken," I love that song, and it doesn't really come up anywhere. So I felt like that was worth featuring. Um, Andy Summers
Wait.
of the
Before you go, I was
Yep.
a music director at like a classic hits format for a while, and "Broken" was one of the songs that was we were able to play on like special weekends. It's like it's a triple play weekend, 3 songs from your favorite artists.
Ah,
Like
so
Broken,
yeah,
yeah, Broken wouldn't get on during like normal workaday hours, but on special weekends we could play it. And if you're gonna go deep into Burton Cummings' vocal performances, I think he does the lead vocals on Star Baby, which is one of the last hits the Guess Who had. I don't like the Guess Who all that much, but Star Baby's pretty great. I'm gonna throw that one on. I'm stealing that one from you, Flick. Sorry. Carry it.
all right. I like the Guess Who just fine. But Broken I like quite a bit, and it like you said, it shows up on the radio very sparingly. Um, Andy Summers from the Police. I put "So Lonely" on my list, and the big one for me is definitely Paul Westerberg. This is another, you know, one of my all-time favorites that happens to be a Capricorn. He is a December 31st birthday. Paul Westerberg of the Replacements. I went with a more obvious song. I went with "I Will Dare" because I was being kind of cheeky and thought the line "How old are you? How young am I?" Thought that works for a birthday list, so I couldn't resist it.
Yeah, that's a great one. Forgot about Andy Summers, and I have to go back. Sorry. Sting is a very talented artist. I love his bass playing. His songwriting, particularly in the Police, is great. But that band was made up of. They all seem kind of like dicks, to be honest. Like I understand they all hate each other, and I kind of get it. Andy Summers seems the nicest of them. He wrote one of my all-time favorite songs. It's a B-side of the Synchronicity era. It's "Someone to Talk to." Just a strange little. The Police did not spend a ton of time on their B-sides. Andy Summers wrote "Someone to Talk to" and tried to get it recorded for an album, and Sting wouldn't sing it. Sting was wrong. The lyrics are great. They're great. Someone to Talk to. It's a little lightweight musically, but the lyrics are fantastic. The vocal performance is fantastic, and Andy Summers is playing his heart out in the song. You got to dig it up. It's on the box set and it's on the B-sides compilation. Do not set aside an afternoon to pay deep attention to Police B-sides compilation. A lot of it's crud, but Someone to Talk To is not. In fact, all the B-sides at the end are pretty good. Start at the end of the album, Flexible Strategies, and listen backwards, and it'll get worse. You can just turn it off when you can't take it anymore, but make sure to get someone to talk to. Sorry. Had to do that one. I don't know how I missed Andy Summers. Did you go see... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a lot of good ones that you don't have on your list.
Yeah, I think I picked a wrong list to go from. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, you don't even have Alex Chilton on yours.
Well, I wouldn't have picked it anyway because it's already yours. I would have never. I would have cross-talked yours.
Yeah, I mean, but we both have Andy Summers now. We both have Bo Diddley, so it is fair game. All right, so yours aren't in order, right?
Right. I mean, I have a couple left. I could do. I don't know how many you have left.
I'm going to. I don't know. I think 3. I was circling the dates, and then I stopped circling them for some reason. So all I know is the next one I'm going to is January 3rd.
All right, roll on.
Okay, so January 3rd, I'm going to kind of work my way up to it. Stephen Stills is January 3rd. Stephen Stills, of course, of Buffalo Springfield, and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. I think I went with Sweet Judy Blue Eyes because I do kind of feel like that's his best work ever. Even though that's the most obvious one, it was kind of hard not to go with it. Might be subject to change, though. I'm not sure. Van Dyke Parks, who often collaborator with Brian Wilson going back to the Smile sessions. I had to go with Heroes and Villains because has the classic Van Dyke Parks line, "Sunny Down Snuff, I'm all right." And John Paul Jones, bass player of Led Zeppelin. I went with Ramble On because, if there's any song that highlights a John Paul Jones bass line, it's Ramble On. And with all of those big ones there, to me, the biggest one is the man who I consider to be the fifth Beatle, George Martin, the producer of the Beatles, for all but one of their albums. And I went with Tomorrow Never Knows.
Bold. It's bold. I may have to come back to a few of those.
I'm sorry. This is like the worst mistake I've ever made. I misspoke and said it was from Rubber Soul. It's from Revolver.
It is from Revolver, and I didn't catch you. Bad me.
Mm.
This really got Black Pill here, and I want to apologize because I'm going right from Kenny Loggins into Rod Stewart. Although Rod Stewart is a country mile better than Kenny Loggins in my humble estimation.
Rod Stewart, and we argue about Rod Stewart a lot. Rod Stewart, when he started his early career, is one of the greatest runs anybody ever had, and then he, I don't know, to me, just blew it. But
where did he blow it? Because if you say, like, "Do you think I'm sexy?" or something like that, I'm not having that in this house. Where did it fall off?
That's kind of on par with the Bee Gees thing a little bit, because I understand that "Do You Think I'm Sexy" was a huge hit and everything, but you can't tell me it's not cheesy. It's totally cheesy.
Oh no, it's not at all. Okay. Well, I mean, look, Rod Stewart did something in the 70s that was really hard to do. Is he had a rabid female audience and also a legit male audience. That was really hard to do during that period, especially in the 80s. And he had to make admit it, like stuff like "Love Touch" from Legal Eagles. Yes, he probably should have been propelled into space over that.
I mean that's basically Kenny Loggins territory, and so that's obviously why you think of him in the same breath. That's
well. Look, the difference here
faces to that.
The difference is Rod Stewart into the 80s still made some bangers. Bangers. Infatuation
where are
is
the
a
bangers in the
banger.
80s? Where are the bangers in the 80s?
Infatuation, Baby Jane, and Killer 1 and 2. Can't argue, can't fight it, and I've included it, of course, is Tonight I'm Yours from the album Tonight I'm Yours, also from that album, Young Turks, one of the all-time best songs ever. Ever. Billy pierced his ear and drove a pickup like a lunatic. That's what a hurting world needed, and that's what Rod Stewart delivered. I think you hate yourself.
Okay, so again, this is why there's no excuse not to have Alex Chilton on your list, because if we can both have Rod Stewart, then we can both have Alex Chilton, I would say.
I'm going to drop some Alex Chilton
in. And it's just like you don't have Paul Westerberg, you don't have.
But I was leaving those for you. Look, I'm going to send you afterward the list I was working from. None of those names are on it. Sorry.
So Rod Stewart on my list as well. But by the way, his birthday is the 10th.
Yeah, I think the 10th or something like that, right?
So it's not somebody I was going to bring up for a while, but I'll just mention the song that I have is Cindy Incidentally from The Faces Ooh La La, which, at that time, like he was suited perfectly for rock music. He just, I don't think people talk about him as one of the greatest all-time rock vocalists because he went down this pop path, this top 40 path, which wasn't worthy of him, of his talents.
Do you know how much money he owed his ex-wives? Do you have any concept? If you're playing that at those stakes, he would have crawled on his belly for Legal Eagles 2, I think, by the time the divorce lawyers were done with him.
So he's a guy who had the ability to, I would say, maybe Mick Jagger's a little bit lofty. I think you could almost picture him in that class if he would have stayed on that path. Making quality music. But yeah.
Well, I'm going to black pill everything, and I'm going to put the extended version of Love Touch on my playlist. That's it. I'm burning the whole thing down.
Yeah, I would say you forfeit.
Nihilism-inducing.
You certainly forfeit any credibility with that.
Oh, there's an alternate mix of Infatuation. Don't mind if I do.
Yeah.
You're up.
Okay. With that, I move on to January 4th. A lot here. Arthur Conley, Sweet Soul Music, his big hit. I did include that on my list. Nels Cline, guitarist for Wilco, current guitarist. They have, I guess, not too many changes at that position, but he is the current guitarist. And
do Wilco fans listen to his solo stuff? Because he's made some really interesting stuff. Like I do like free jazz and improvised music and out stuff, and he really is good at it. I just wonder if the Wilco fans go deep in his catalog or not.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if anybody does, it would be them.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's selling a ton of records. I'm saying the ones he does make are very interesting and just very un-Wilco-like often.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, kind of. I think pretty much everybody that's in Wilco now kind of has their side projects that. Yeah, I would say their core audience is still probably the Wilco audience. But I included the Wilco song "Impossible Germany" because I think that's a really good guitar showcase. And I guess I should technically say that he's the lead guitarist of Wilco because Wilco has more than one guitarist. Jeff Tweedy plays guitar as well. Bernard Sumner of New Order. I have Ceremony on my list. New Order and Joy Division. Katie Crutchfield, Waxahachie. Was not aware that she was also a Capricorn until making this list. I included Witches from St. Cloud, and I should probably amend that because I've used that song so much. But it is absolutely one of my favorite songs of 2020. But I should maybe go back to the previous Waxahachie album because I like that one as well, and haven't had a chance to feature as much from that. And then you have Michael Stipe, who is from a little known band called R.E.M. And one of my favorite, well, my absolute favorite R.E.M. album, which is Life's Rich Pageant. And have a couple of my favorite R.E.M. songs from it, Fall on Me, but the other one is Begin to Begin. Those are probably my two all-time favorite R.E.M. songs, so I included Begin to Begin on this list. And that is January 4th.
Yeah, old Bernie Sumner's guest vocal on Out of Control by the Chemical Brothers is also worth digging up. I'll throw that in just for funsies. All right, I'm jumping around because I'm mostly just looking for excuses to talk about artists that I like that we haven't had a reason to talk about before. I'm going to the 15th to grab Captain Beefheart. I'm not old enough to have been, to have listened to him first time around. I do remember him being on Letterman when I was a kid. I mostly I didn't really know too much about him other than he was sort of hanging around Frank Zappa. He was on Hot Rats. He does the vocals on Willie the Pimp, which is an incredible performance by both Zappa and Beefheart. Although in this reissue of Hot Rats that came out 2 years ago, there is the full unedited music bed without Captain Beefheart. I have to say it's just as good without him. And I love a lot of Captain Beefheart stuff, but that riff on Willie the Pimp is in Zappa's all time. But most people, when they think of Beefheart, I think of Trout Mask Replica. That's how I found him. I got to it from being a kid and reading in Rolling Stone that it was a great record. I got a used copy of it super cheap at some Salvation Army somewhere. And obviously, I had no idea what to do with it. I couldn't get I'm like, this doesn't sound like Frank Zappa at all. Where's the fart jokes? Like I was really mad that it just didn't have. It wasn't like Frank Zappa a lot. But as I got older,
it doesn't have the knee slappers.
No, not a lot of the knee slappers. But eventually, I went back to it, and I don't expect most people to like Trout Mask Replica. It is a little bit. I don't know. It's a little precious. It's a bit of a product of its time. If you can get over the affectations of it and focus on what's going on there musically, which admittedly is a bit of work, it is a masterpiece. It is one of the greatest things ever recorded. It's just not for everyone. I don't really like his earlier stuff with I think it's Abba Zaba and the stuff on Buddha Records. I don't care for that as much, the sort of more rocky stuff he did. But everything after that, was it Lick My Decals Off, Baby? And there's a bunch of stuff that it's just fascinating stuff, but nothing's better than Trout Mask Replica. Trout Mask Replica is not on Spotify, but there are some outtakes or contemporaneous recordings. In honor of the White Stripes, who put out their greatest hits in the last couple of weeks, and because I don't think I can go a week without mentioning them either, I'm grabbing China Pig from Captain Beefheart. There's a recording of it that sounds very much like from that era. It's very faithful to the Trout Mask Replica version. If you can't take it, you can go get the White Stripes version. It's fantastic. But try the Beefheart stuff. If you haven't given it a try, go back. You won't be able to stream it on Spotify. You should own a copy of Trout Mask Replica probably, and you should spend some quality time trying to get to a place where you at least could say you gave it a real shot. I'm leading, maybe not the most accessible one, but China Pig's great. You'll walk around your house screaming the lyrics of China Pig. I'm guessing the majority of people will understand what makes it interesting. Hopefully you dig it.
All right, I'm gonna move up to the 6. Well, I'm gonna mention quick that Sam Phillips, the guy who started Sun Records, discovered some people you might have heard of, like Roy Orbison,
Mm.
Howlin' Wolf, Elvis Presley, and if you and then moving up to the 6, you already talked about Sid Barrett. I also want to mention Sandy Denny of the Fairport Convention. I didn't include this date on my list, but I think I'm going to throw in Who Knows Where the Time Goes from Fairport Convention. Malcolm Young, rhythm guitarist of AC/DC, of course. And again, I didn't include this date, but I'm probably going to make an amendment there. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about Kenny Loggins. He was on the 7th. But the 8th have a couple of gigantic ones. A couple of guys you might have heard of. One I just mentioned, little known act called Elvis Presley. I put one that was kind of new to me. One that when we put our Bob Dylan covers for lovers list together, his or did I? Yeah, his version of "Tomorrow Is a Long Time." I included that because it's the newest one to me, so it's still kind of the number one on my list. You know, I'm not the biggest Elvis fan in the world, but I have to say a big part of that is the material. When he, the only thing that ever brought him down was sometimes weak material, but you give him the right material and it's kind of unbeatable. And then the other little known act that has a birthday on January 8th, David Bowie. I included "Oh You Pretty Things" from Hunky Dory. I think we're going to talk about David Bowie a bit.
Yeah, that's why I left him
Soon.
off. You're right. I have other. I'm saving some of that for later.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll save most of the commentary on that. David Bowie, and we'll be talking about him in coming weeks.
I'm calling an audible. How many? Where are you taking? You have two more.
Well, I think 3 more. Well, maybe 2 more because we've already talked about Rod Stewart, so I'll just skip over that.
Oh, all right. All right. I'm going to call an audible on. I'm going to go on the 16th. I'm not sure if Sade made your list or not. I hope not to be stealing that one from you. Now, in 1985, the song "Smooth Operator," "Smooth Operator" is what, 86 or 85? Oh, 84. Okay. In 1984, there was no person on the earth less likely to be called Smooth Operator than me. I was 14 years old, and I enjoyed the Sade stuff, but I was like, it's kind of boring, or this would be on at a dentist office. I just didn't. I wasn't hearing it right when I was 14 and 15 years old. But I've gone back, and I can't say I'm like a master. I don't have total knowledge of that the entire catalog, but Sade was an exceptional talent, and really still is. And because she sort of ducked out of the spotlight to go raise her family and decided, to just do music when it moved her, and otherwise try to live a more normal life. I think just because was such a striking debut and was just made such a huge impact, to have her go away, I don't know, and have that band not mostly be known for their old stuff. I don't know. I missed the boat, and I wish I hadn't. The more time I spend with Sade records, the more I like them. And if I'd heard myself say that in like 1985, I would have been like, oh, what a dud I turned out. But I was wrong. When it was a 15-year-old, no. I don't know. I had pretty good taste at 15, but I miss Sade, and I want to throw Sade in on the Capricorns because especially those first two albums, they're pretty great. They're pretty great.
All right, the 9th is also a pretty big day. We've got some David Johansen, lead singer of the New York Dolls. I guess he was also Buster Poindexter, so some people might be familiar.
Yeah, that's a little tougher to take.
Yeah, that's a harder sell, I think. But But if you saw the movie Scrooged, uh, I think he might have gone by Buster Poindexter in that role, right? Or was he David Johansen?
I will look it up. Keep going.
All right. Also on that day, Joan Baez, and then Jimmy Page. I could have gone. I could have put "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You" as the song on my list because, of course, they both did that song. Led Zeppelin did that on Led Zeppelin 1. I decided instead to go with "Love Is Just a Four-Letter Word" by Joan Baez, "Rain Song" by Led Zeppelin for Jimmy Page, Scott Walker also a birthday on January 9th. Hard not to go with "The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore" because I absolutely love that song. So many great Scott Walker songs from his solo career, though, that I could have gone with. I really love "The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore." So it's just
30th Century Man, you got to put that on.
I yeah, you can. I'm not saying you can. I'm not saying there would be anything wrong with that choice. But I absolutely love "The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore," and it's kind of hard for me to get past it, even with all of that great material.
Yeah, you're right. I needed a better list. I could have done half a dozen of his, and I did none. What a dud I am. All right.
But you did Kenny Loggins.
It was important to make a point. I was feeling nihilistic at that time.
I guess.
Yeah. So I think this is my last one, or we each have one more.
Yeah, I'm gonna do one more.
All right, I'll make this my last one.
All right. I could do two more. Really, I could stretch this out into 2 days because it is technically 2 days that I was just going to cover all at once.
All right, I'll do two more. I'll just do a quick one here. I want to throw in for Shabba Ranks. Shabba Ranks is again, I don't claim I own every one of his records. His birthday, I think, is in the 15th or the 16th. I think I got it right. Nope, I didn't. It's the 17th. So Shabba Ranks' birthday on the 17th. I grabbed Twice My Age from his album he did it was like in the 2000s. Like I really do feel for artists, and I do not want to make light of how much bootleg music impacts their sales. Like I don't want to make light of that. It is a serious thing. But when I moved to New York, one of the things that was most interesting for me was to go down to Canal Street and buy mix CDs of just like world music, reggae music, soca music, just stuff I didn't know, but you just hear blasting out of these little stores or blasting out of cars as they were driving around. And there's tons of songs by Shabba Ranks. I probably don't even know their name. I just they're little snippets as a part of these long albums with just little snippets from songs just put in a row. There's tons of songs where I probably know two or three lines by him, but one of the all-time greats he did is he does this album, or there is an album called Rappin' with the Ladies. It's got quite a bit of top shelf material on there. I went with Twice My Age with Crystal, just because that was on like every mix CD I remember being out around that time in the early 2000s. I think I heard that song coming out of like every single store on Broadway probably for a month and a half. So if you don't know Shabba Ranks, you should. I don't know where to tell you to get started. I think a lot of there's stuff like that he's very famous for, but he made music for like 35 years. He was around very early in the dance hall years, way into the 21st century. So he's a legend, and I just picked a duet that's particularly famous of his. But if you don't know his music, you really got to give him a try. And if nothing else, the ASAP Ferg song "Shabba Ranks" is also spectacular. So one way or another, try to get your mind around some of that.
Okay, January 10th, and again, I'm not going to go all the way through the all of the dates, but this is my second to last date. So we talked about Rod Stewart already. January 10th. Frank Sinatra, who you might have heard of, also January 10th. Pat Benatar, January 10th. Kirk Kirkwood of the Meat Puppets, also January 10th. I couldn't resist going with Up on the Sun from the Meat Puppets. I think over time that is just become like the hands down winner for me for Meat Puppet songs. I absolutely love Up on the Sun, so I couldn't resist putting that
Yeah,
on.
that's up there. There's a couple every once in a while, like Lost, I think makes it
Yeah,
to the top
Lost
of
in the
my list.
Freeways. Yeah.
Touchdown King's good, but yeah, I think you're picking right here.
Yep.
All right, this is it. I'm going to close out. This is going to be the 1812 Overture. I'm going to go to January 19th because it gives me an opportunity to talk about Robert Palmer and Dolly Parton. And Robert Palmer, of course, is famous for covering New Day Rising by Husker Du.
That's right. Yeah.
That's not the performance I chose. I chose the extended 12-inch weird remix of Some Like It Hot from the Power Station record, because the Power Station record, from everything I've ever read, like in the music, in the trades, I think people think of it as just like a long form ad for cocaine. I have never done cocaine, so I can't verify this. If cocaine is like that first Power Station record, I think I have a little bit of understanding of the interest that others have in it. I know you like T-Rex flicks, so I'm not going to ask you to accept their cover of "Get It On, Bang a Gong," but I think it's passable. It doesn't lay a glove on the original, but nothing's ever going to. I think it's done with love, so therefore it's tolerable. But it has Isley Brothers covers on it too. That album's good. Robert Palmer was good.
At this point, at that time, there really weren't a whole lot of T-Rex covers in existence. At this point, there's so many more, and I've heard so many bad ones at this point that I'll probably give that one a pass pretty easily because I've heard just some horrendous T-Rex covers at this point.
Yeah, that is very fair. Yeah, that's a tough one because it's become a cottage industry, I think, to cover T-Rex, and you want to give them a little credit, but they went for their biggest hit by far. I mean, "Get It On" was also the biggest T-Rex song in Britain too, wasn't it? That was the biggest T-Rex hit there too, right?
I suppose it's really not my favorite T-Rex song, nor is it really at the top of my list for T-Rex songs. So I'm not I'm not very precious about that song.
Really?
It's a good song, but it it being the one that I heard on the radio when I was a kid, I think that kind of makes it less. You know, I honestly heard that a lot on the radio when I was a kid, which in a way is kind of cool that I at least had any exposure to T-Rex at that age. But at this point, I will kind of skip over it or not put it on compilations.
Well, the Power Station album also includes the drumming of Tony Thompson, who was originally in Chic. Chic had one of the greatest rhythm sections of all times. Bernard Edwards, the bass player, one of the greatest bass players to ever pick up the guitar. Tony Thompson, just the fact that he had such an incredible touch doing the disco records and the urban records in the 70s and early 80s, and then just the heavy hand God of Thunder playing on this Power Station record. I love it. All right, and then I got to throw in again my last one here, saving one of the best for last. Also a birthday on the 19th of January. Dolly Parton, who I think at this point everybody realizes is just a good person too. For all the crap she's put up with in her career, I feel very sorry for her in that regard, but in others I don't. She's one of the greatest living songwriters on this planet. I don't think people quite grasp Jolene now. I think everybody likes Jolene. I know there's got to be a million covers of Jolene, which is fine. It's a great song, but she has way, way, way more than that. Even on the 9 to 5 soundtrack, she covered Woody Guthrie's Deportee. She's not, she's always been sort of dismissed because of her boobs and her looks and that kind of stuff. It's just bullshit. She's great. Seems to be a really spectacular human being, and she's consistently written incredibly great songs. Now, because I already covered the Bee Gees, I'm not going to use Islands in the Stream, and you certainly don't need me to find a way to put Jolene in your ears. I'm going to ask you all to give Here You Come Again another try. It's a little syrupy. It's sort of like, I think it was like during when she had she had like a variety show on TV that my mom loved, and that's why the first concert I ever saw was Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers at the Milwaukee County Fair in like 1980 or something. But anyway, she was huge for this TV variety show, and Here You Come Again was one of her big, big hits around there. And I feel like it's getting lost in the shuffle a little bit. It doesn't bang, it doesn't slap, but it's just a great Dolly Parton song, of which there are many, many, many. So she deserves to be discussed. She deserves. She's the love. From what I understand, she's like an investor in the COVID-19 vaccine or something like, and she's just a treasure. She's culturally a treasure, and she's a treasure as a person. So hooray, hooray, happy birthday, Dolly Parton.
All right. Okay, and I do want a quick aside, just in case people think that we would lie about something like Robert Palmer covering New Day Rising. There is proof in multiple instances on YouTube. You can look it up, and it is there for your ears to believe or not. Okay, so I'm going to close out with January 12th. A lot more days in the cycle to go. But of course, we don't have time to cover them all. But one I definitely do want to cover. Another one of the huge ones for me. Like I said, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is because it covers so many of my absolute favorite all-time, mostly songwriters, as well as just musicians in general. Chris Bell, the other half of the songwriting duo of Big Star when they started out. Of course, was really only on the first Big Star album, but really, was the reason for Big Star even being a thing. And in addition to the Big Star stuff, in addition to number one record, one of my favorite all-time singles, which I've talked about it before, so I won't go into too much in depth on this, but I Am the Cosmos, backed with You and Your Sister, one of my favorite, if not the favorite all-time A side B side combo for me, when he started his solo material, which unfortunately that was really all that ended up being released during his lifetime, if it even was still during his lifetime, was the single for I Am the Cosmos.
I know we've talked about it before. Flick, if I win the lotto, I'm gonna go find you an original Chris Bell 7-inch, and I'm gonna find you an original Big Star's third pressing. That's my pledge to you.
Well, it's my hope that you someday win the lottery then.
Yeah. The first side of the Chris Bell solo album is one of my favorite music listening experiences. And the reissues, I'm glad that there's like deluxe and super deluxe, but that first Ryko disc issue with the couple extra bonus tracks is just never. It's just one of my favorite things to just put on and have on and sing along to. I'm really sad he died. By the way, one other thing quickly, going back to Big Star and Chris Bell, why does no one know whether he played on the second Big Star album or not? Every time I read about Big Star, there seems to be like no one's sure if he actually played on the second Big Star record or not. Do you know anything about that?
Well, there was a version that I think was recorded with him on it, but I don't think that is the version that you hear. I don't think that was released, and I don't think that survived. That's one of the things that we actually talked to Jody Stevens about, but that was his assessment, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a little sad about Chris Bell sometimes. I feel like I think he would have loved knowing that he was loved. You know what I mean? And I don't know if he got to have that. he never got to have that feeling in proportion to the way I think.
Yeah,
We'll see him now.
the tragic thing is, I think he actually needed a bit of that, at least a little. He needed some reassurance that he didn't get during his lifetime.
Yeah, and for him to be that talented, that good, and to never receive the validation, that is what, his death is a tragedy on many levels, but that always sticks with me. There's just a sadness about that around that. His music, though, is if you're only going to have one record, that's one you can be proud of for sure, for sure. All right, birthday boy, we were able to get quite a few in. I think I'm don't take this the wrong way, but when my birthday comes next summer, I will not be asking for a Zodiac show for a bunch of reasons. One of them is my birthday falls on a date that's sometimes Cancer, sometimes Gemini, in June. I wouldn't want to have to do both. It'd be a 6-hour show.
Does that make you like a split personality or something?
That's the nice word for it. So yeah, this was we're gonna wind down here for this winds down 2020. We've had all things considered, considering the pain in the world. We have a lot to be thankful for. Getting to just sit around and talk about music with your buds is something that brought joy to my year. So hopefully this finds you. We're all kind of dragging a little bit. We're all kind of tired here at the end of a tough year, but hope springs eternal. 2021. Never say never. Things can always get worse, but I don't think that's what anybody wants at this point. So hopefully the good karma and the good energy go your way, and 2021 is a better year for all y'all.
We'll see you in 2021.
See you then.